So this is the Pixel 6 Pro review, and I've been using it pretty much since it came out. Now, I was waiting and putting it off making my review only because I wanted to wait and see if that update that was supposed to come out in December, which did come out but then made it worse for some users, and then finally January, that one update came out. And I wanted to see if it made a huge difference or not. Personally, I'll be honest, I wasn't getting a ton of bugs originally when I first had the phone, so just occasional bugs here and there, and I mean, when it did happen, it was pretty annoying, but otherwise, I was getting a pretty decent experience on the Pixel 6 Pro already before the whole update. But now that the update came out, some things have changed. Honestly, I don't see much of a huge difference. Yeah, but let's go ahead and talk about the phone. As far as design and hardware, I'm a fan of this. Personally, I think it's a really nice looking phone. It's overall a great built phone. It feels premium in the hand. Now, I did put a skin on my phone just because it is a very slippery phone without the skin, so I definitely would recommend getting either a skin or a case just because it helps with it not slipping out of your hands, or if you put it on like a really soft surface, it might move around, slip around, and the skin helps that 100%. So this specifically is the leather skin from D brand. I'm not sure if it's still available, but it makes gripping this phone a lot nicer. But overall, the phone itself is really nice. I did ask a couple coworkers, friends, and families, and just overall reactions whenever I pulled out the phone. A lot of people thought this phone was ugly. So I don't know. I guess, like I said, it's subjective. So some people may think it's an ugly looking phone. For me, I think it's a good looking phone. It is definitely unique. Like, it will stand out. If you whip this out, you're going to know that's a Pixel 6 Pro over there, or just a Pixel 6 in general. So it's unique. Maybe not in a good way for some people, but to me, I think it's unique and I think it looks really nice. Overall, it is a boxy design. So it's almost like an S21 with a Note mixed in here. So it's kind of boxy, but it's also curved on the edges. So overall, it's a very, for the most part, comfortable feeling phone. It is big. It is a big phone because it has a 6.7-inch display. It's 1440p and it's 120 hertz. So for me, the display has been pretty good. It's been pretty bright overall, even in like very light and bright situations. You're going to get a very usable screen. It's going to be very bright. It's going to be very sharp. And outdoor usage, you're going to get a good experience for the most part. I don't have much issue, if at all, being able to see my phone when I'm out in the sun. But overall, the display and the quality looks good. I think the videos, you know, the colors, it just looks sharp. It looks really nice, looks bright and vibrant. I have it under natural settings just because personally I don't like it super punchy, but I also, you know, like to see some color. So natural to me looked really good. So that's how I use my phone, on natural mode. Then 120 hertz. Again, there's bugs apparently where it dropped it down to 90 hertz. Personally, I didn't experience it as much. I think the phone overall is very smooth and very sharp and very perfect. I don't know. To me, it's good. If you're a pro user, you might notice it. You might see those differences. You might see those drop frames. But after the update, honestly, the only place I ever noticed any kind of like frame drop still is when you're scrolling fast in like social media apps. So like Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, all those apps. If you're scrolling extremely fast, like you're just going through and just scrolling, it does look a little bit choppy at times. Now, I don't know if that's just the app itself, you know, taking it slow, or if it's the refresh rate, you know, dropping down in frames. But otherwise, if you're, you know, just doing it normally, browsing around slowly, you know, doing your normal thing, you really aren't seeing a ton of frame drops. So I think overall, it's a really good display. It is curved, so some people hate that, some people like that. Personally, I like it the way it looks because it looks premium, and I actually haven't been having a ton of issues with like accidental touches with my palm. I do use the phone without a case. I only use the skin. So personally, I haven't had that bad of an experience with accidental touches. They do happen every once in a while, but they're not as common as like I felt like they used to be in like old phones that I used to have. But overall, the display is really good, and then the build quality itself, like I said, is pretty good for me at least. As far as buttons and ports, you're getting USB-C at the bottom with 2 dual firing speakers. They're not really dual firing speakers. It's just 2 speakers, but only one does all the work. So only audio will only come out of one of the speakers. So you could easily cover one up and it won't make a difference. You also have another speaker up the top for like stereo speaker. Overall, they're pretty loud, I would say. They're not the loudest I've ever heard, but they're loud enough. They get the job done. I do wish they were a little bit more on-fear, like a little bit more bassier, but overall they are pretty good. They also have the power button and the volume rocker on the right-hand side. Personally, I wish they were a little lower, but I have big hands, so I have gotten used to it. And then you have your SIM card slot on the left-hand side. Overall, the body itself is water resistant, so I believe it's IP68, so it's water and dust resistant. So if you ever accidentally get caught in the rain, or if you accidentally splash something on this, like as long as it's like clean water, you should be fine. On front of the display, you also have the front camera, which is a punch hole cutout. personally, at this point, I'm super used to it. So at this point, I hope you guys are used to it too. But again, you have your opinions on that. Personally, I think it's fine. It's symmetrical, so it doesn't really get in the way. You also have a fingerprint sensor underneath the screen. That's an optical one, so that means it uses light. Personally, I've had a decent experience with it. Even before this January update, it was still doing pretty well. The November update, it's the update that definitely helped a lot, but the January update, I didn't see much of a difference. It's not the quickest as some other phones, but it's still pretty quick. I think it's playing fast enough. I don't know. To me, it's fine. It's accurate for the most part. Every once in a while, I will get like a message saying, hold it a little longer, or you're not hitting it correctly, something like that. But overall, for the most part, it is decently doing. I do wish that you had the ability to use facial recognition, even if it's 2D facial recognition. I know it's not the most secure, but just for the convenience, sometimes it helps and makes stuff easier. And the vibration motor that comes included in the phone is actually pretty nice. It's very soft and subtle, but also aggressive enough to give you nice feedback whenever you're typing away. Overall though, the phone has been holding up pretty well, the build, the quality. I do have some like scuffs here and there, but nothing crazy. The screen itself doesn't have a ton of scratches at all. Like I don't really see many micro scratches on there. And I don't really baby my phones. I just use them as is. And as you see, I'm not using a case, I'm just using a skin. So the back will probably be fine, but the front is pretty exposed. But overall, build quality, design, I'm a fan of it. I think you're getting a decent phone here for the price, but that's the hardware. Now it's time to talk about the software. Android 12 has been a pretty okay experience for the most part. It's much different to what I'm used to coming from like One UI, but so far I like the material use stuff that Android 12 is bringing. That whole color coordination, trying to make things match up with the wallpaper. I like the rounded corners on widgets and stuff like that. Only thing I do wish that it wasn't like super round and super thick on some things. So for example, like the quick panel. Those are very thick buttons, and you're still even having to scroll, or it has to show a scrolling text to show you what it's supposed to do. Same with the volume rocker. Why is the volume thing so chunky? It's so fat. Like I prefer it much thinner so I can see properly how much it's going down or going up. Because like every time I press up and down to lower or increase the volume, it looks like it's barely even going up, and I'm like confused at what level is 50%, what level is 100%, or I mean not 100%, but like certain levels. And I just wish it was a little bit thinner, just so it was a little bit more accurate looking, and also so it doesn't take up a ton of space on your screen itself. I also noticed that on notifications, there's a lot of extra padding going around. So like for a small notification, there'd be this huge chunk of space around the actual notification on the text and stuff like that. I don't know, this is something I've noticed more after the update than I did before. Before it was still happening, but there's like one notification in particular that I got that was like huge like amount of padding around it, and it was just a little small information. I believe it was from Facebook. It was really weird. But animations and scrolling around, it actually looks pretty nice. Like it runs pretty smoothly. The animations are nice, or not super aggressive, and also not super crazy. There's a ton of features on here that personally I don't use a lot of them, but I'm used to having actually a lot more features in like a Samsung phone. But even then, there's still a decent amount of features that you can do on the Android 12. So one of those being the quick tap feature, so you can double tap your phone on the back and quickly access something or quickly open up something if you want to. Personally, I have it bring down the notification bar so I can quickly access my notifications and the quick panel as well, just because the phone itself is pretty big, so having to reach up there is kind of annoying sometimes. And you can do it in app and like a different app, so which is pretty nice. And the settings menu, I personally needed some time to get used to it. I finally got used to it eventually, but I do wish that the battery section was a little bit improved. I just wish it showed your screen on time from like the moment you fully charge your phone to the moment you replugged it in, just because I want to see what actual screen on time I got with that usage. It just feels like I feel like I can better see my actual usage versus the 24-hour usage. You can go into your digital well-being and see how much screen on time you got for that particular day, which, I mean, for the most part, I usually charge my phone overnight, so I can use that as my screen on time, but I wish the battery section itself had that built into it. Here's some stuff I'm just going to be picking on. I wish you could make folders within the app drawer. Just makes it easier to customize and clean up that whole app drawer. I wish that when you went into the recent apps, you could easily, immediately clear all versus having to scroll the whole way to the end to clear all. I wish it didn't show the last 4 digits on my card on the quick panel for my Google Pay card. I also wish the brightness slider was a little bit lower in the quick panel and immediately was there when you first lowered the quick panel, just because it's something I use a lot. Being able to adjust the brightness real quick on the fly is something I like, and also wish it was more one-handed versus having it all the way at the top. And something I did notice is that after the update, I did notice more brightness issues where the brightness would go up and down. Now, I don't know if this is like based on the hardware or if this is based on the software, But to me, I noticed it once the update came around. So like I was in a dark room or a dark situation and I wasn't moving. I was just using my phone and all of a sudden it went brighter, then it went back down. It went brighter, went back down. It was weird. I don't know why it was doing it. Again, I noticed this after the January update. Maybe it was happening before the update too and I didn't really realize it, but I realized it was happening after the update. So just something to keep in mind that personally I still was experiencing weird brightness issues, which actually kind of made my head feel a little bit dizzy, not gonna lie, but it wasn't anything dramatic or anything drastic, but just something to keep in mind. On your home screen, I wish that at a glance didn't take up the whole top row. Not that I want to move stuff up there, but sometimes I click on that top row when I'm trying to lower the quick panel and actually click on the at a glance stuff. I also wish you could hide the labels on the home screen itself, just the ability to quickly hide those labels so it's just the icon sitting there. And this last one, I wish I could access Samsung Notes. Now, if there's a way, someone please tell me, because I have a lot of notes in my Samsung Notes app that I wish I could have on my phone. And I don't carry my Z Fold 3 around with me all the time, so I don't have my notes all the time, and sometimes I need them. And I'm like, crap, I need my Z Fold 3 to get my Samsung Notes. So yeah, I wish I could access that. If there's a way to access Samsung Notes, please let me know, because it would save me a lot of hassle sometimes. But overall, the software, it's based on, again, this is all subjective, but to me, it's a little too simple. I wish there was more customization like that I'm used to from like a Samsung phone, but overall for an average person, this is very easy to navigate, very easy to use. It's actually really aesthetically pleasing looking. So overall, Android 12 is actually really nice looking. But there's still small bugs here and there that I actually experience on other phones too. So it's not just this particular Pixel 6 Pro Android 12 version. There's other phones where I'm still having these weird bugs that happen every once in a while, but it's not a huge deal breaker. But again, you would expect it to be perfect for a $900 phone. But otherwise, let's move on to the day-to-day usage and overall performance. As far as performance and day-to-day usage, honestly, I've had a pretty decent experience. Ever since I got the phone, even before all the updates, I was getting a good experience. Now, there were some specific app crashes that were happening that I guess maybe needed to get optimized with the new Tensor chip, because since then, I haven't had many app crashes. Occasionally, once or twice, I'll get like the system UI has crashed when I'm in the middle of an app. So in the background, the UI crashed, which it's weird, but it didn't affect what I was doing on my phone. It didn't affect my day-to-day. But overall, like I said, performance has been pretty good. It's snappy. You can easily get to apps and open up apps pretty quick. Hopefully, most apps at this point have been optimized and are good to go with the new Tensor chip. Like I said, I had some of those apps. So YouTube Studio needed to be fixed. Rocket League needed to be fixed. The DJI Fly app I learned had to be downloaded from the actual website itself. So overall, a lot of the things that I had issues with on the Pixel 6 and then earlier on the Pixel 6 Pro have been fixed. Most of those are gone. It's just small bugs that are occasionally happening within Android 12 and the whole system, but it's not huge deal breakers. So for the most part, I've had a decent experience. Games run pretty smoothly, so games look great on here just because of the display. It's a big display, so it's sharp, it's smooth. So overall, gaming on here has been a pleasure. It's been fun, it's been easy, and also, again, big display, so good for multitasking. You can split certain apps, not all apps are compatible with multitasking, but the apps that are, you can easily split up and down, or you can use picture-in-picture for like YouTube when you're watching videos. One of my favorite things to do is just put a picture-in-picture and start using other apps while I'm listening and watching a video on the corner. But like I said, overall for me, experience has been good on a day-to-day. I trust this phone for the most part. I haven't had a day where I had to quickly switch to like my Fold phone because this phone was unusable. It was usable. Every day I could get by. It was great for texting. You know, it's a comfortable phone for texting. Like I already mentioned, the vibration motor. Network issues, I didn't have any. There's only one issue I had, which was at work. I know there's a dead spot at one where I work. Like whichever phone I've had, all had issues at that particular spot at work. So this phone was no excuse. I am using Mint Mobile, which uses the T-Mobile whole system. But overall, like I said, for the most part, experience has been good. I definitely think it's been passable. It's been doable. Some users have gotten worse experience, which I mean sucks for them, to be honest. It does. Hopefully, that's something to consider too. Like everyone's for some reason is having a different experience. So for me, that's like you don't want to risk it for the price that you're paying. You don't want to risk it, honestly. So as far as camera usage, personally, I'm not a super heavy camera user, but I'll tell you, when I used it, the photos and the videos that I got have been good. I think they look great. But I did notice that when you're using it, like in the viewfinder, a lot of the previews look very grainy. So you have to let it sit for like a couple seconds, let it process, especially if you take the photo and then immediately go into the gallery to check it out and see if you got the shot, which is actually kind of frustrating because you don't know if you actually got the shot. So it makes you want to take another shot. So yeah, honestly, but after you let it process, for the most part, it comes out really good. The photos look very sharp, look very vibrant. On the front, you have an 11.1 megapixel camera, which is like a wide shot, so you can take wide camera selfies. So if you like taking selfies with fly out people, group shots and stuff like that, or just want to get a lot in your shot, then the Pixel 6 Pro is good because it has that wide angle shot. But overall, the quality on the front looks pretty good in my opinion. I think it takes good shots, and video, you can take 4K as well on the front. So if you like taking 4K videos on the front, you're more than able to. On the back, you have a 50 megapixel wide camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 48 megapixel telephoto. The wide itself, it's a great shot. You're getting a great video, great shots, the colors look good, everything looks fine. You know, you're getting a good overall wide camera. The ultra wide though, it's not the widest in the world. It's 12 megapixels, so it's also not the sharpest, but with all the processing that goes on, it makes it look pretty decent. So the only concern I would have is just that it's not the widest ultra wide that you could possibly get. The telephoto, when you switch to it, it takes like a second, and it's kind of jarring sometimes because if you're filming, you can see the difference like right away. It's like a snap of a finger, and when you're switching to it in the preview, it also looks really weird. Like at first it's like terrible, and then it switches to like perfect quality once you hit that telephoto. But overall, the telephoto is pretty good. It's not the craziest like the furthest you can go. It's not the craziest zoom. I think it's like 20x max, but I mean, when are you going to use more than 20x max or 20x max zoom? So overall, I think the cameras are pretty good. I do wish that the menus were a little bit lower because they're not very one-handed friendly. They're very high up, so you have to like use two hands. But I guess you are using two hands whenever you take a photo, but sometimes I'm using one. So that's something that kind of got annoying a little bit, but overall I got used to it. Camera quality on Snapchat, I always like to mention this because it's amazing. I just love how much better it is on the Pixel 6 Pro and on the Pixel 6. Being able to use the ultra wide and the telephoto, and as well as just your regular main, is fantastic. I think it looks really good. I was able to show it to some iPhone users that I work with, and they were like, bruh, okay, that's pretty cool. But then they were like, but when am I gonna do that? And I was like, I don't know, like concerts or something? I don't know. So yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty good boosted experience on Snapchat. I think it looks great. The front camera also looks pretty good. So overall, quality on cameras on Snapchat and just in the regular cameras have been fantastic for me. So as far as battery life performance, it's been pretty good for the most part. I've had a decent experience here. So for me personally, I use adaptive charging and adaptive battery, and even then, I'm still getting a good performing phone and a good battery life. So on my heavy usage days, I get anywhere from roughly 4 to 6 hours of screen on time, and that takes me all the way up to the end of the day. So I wake up at 6:30, and by the time I hit like 10, 11 o'clock, I'm pretty much at almost a dead battery. So it's an all-day battery life. It's not a 24-hour battery life like if you're a non-heavy user, which sometimes I am. So when I work, I'll end with like 40 to maybe sometimes even 50% battery life. So it depends on everyone's usage. So there's some days where I'll end up with more battery life and some days where I kill the battery completely. But again, it's pretty much an all-day battery life. Now, if you're a heavy user, then you're definitely gonna end up killing it at some point, maybe in the afternoon, which then means that you have to charge it, and the charging methods aren't the greatest. So I have adaptive charging on, which is opposed to trickle charge your phone overnight, so that when you wake up in the morning, you have a full battery life. It doesn't always happen. There's some mornings where I still wake up with like 70%. The worst is when you wake up with 40%. It's pretty bad sometimes, but it's supposed to learn from your alarm and just your usage patterns, but it doesn't always seem to do that. But when it does work, it's great because I wake up and it's full battery life. But when I have to wake up and it's only at 40 and I have to charge it with the wire, it's not the fastest either. So it takes maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours to charge. So it's fast when it goes from like 20 to about 70%, but then after that, it slows down a lot. I guess I understand it so it doesn't kill the battery and makes it too hot, but it's something to keep in mind. But even then, if I get 70% battery life before I head out, then I should be fine for a couple hours, if not most of the day. But overall, I do wish it was a little bit better as far as the charging speeds and then the charging methods. But even then, you have the option of wireless charging as well. Overall though, as long as you have a fully charging phone, by the time you wake up, you're gonna have a good battery life for the rest of the day. So overall, it's been a decent experience. At the end of the day, would I recommend the Pixel 6 Pro? It's hard. it's honestly hard to recommend it just because of what I've seen different people having different experiences. So it's hard to say, yeah, you're gonna get this phone, you're gonna love it, because for some reason everyone's having different experiences. Some people are experiencing a lot of network issues, some people are experiencing a terrible fingerprint sensor, and it's hard to say, yeah, everyone's having a good experience because it's so mixed out there. Personally, me, I've had a decent experience. Occasional bugs here and there, but nothing crazy. So for me, it's been an overall good phone. So if you want to risk it for $900, that's a big risk. But if you want to risk it, go ahead. You might get a chance and get a really good phone. But if you don't want to risk it, get the Pixel 6. It's still a good performing phone. It's the same performance. It's about the same camera, except for the not having a telephoto. Like at that point, I think if you want a telephoto, maybe consider a Samsung phone. Maybe wait to see what the Samsung S22 series brings. Or maybe get an iPhone 13 Pro. Only $100 more. So that's been it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.